What's poppin' YouTube? It's your boy, Ashton, yet again, on another YouTube video. Surprise, surprise, coming back at you. Um, I'm going to be doing something that I kind of already did before in the past, but it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be ranking all of Led Zeppelin's studio albums, um, rather than tier listing it. Um, I don't know why I just felt the need to do this, because that tier list video is kind of old and it's a tier list, whereas this is me in the future, and I don't know, just the albums ranked from worst to best, no bullshit, just no S, A, B, C tier, like none of that. It's just gonna be from worst, in my opinion, to best. But I don't think there's a worst album in Led Zeppelin's discography. There's just they're just weak, I'd say. Um, but then again, we're just gonna roll with it. I just felt the need to do it, so just bear with me on this one, folks. Okay. I'll do other bands' discographies in the future. Um, just let me know what you want me to do. Um, I'm always open to any suggestions you guys may put down. But yeah, we're just gonna roll right into it. Now, Led Zeppelin probably needs no introduction. Um, One of the biggest bands on the planet. Uh, legendary, legendary band. Put out so many good albums. There's probably not a bad album per se in their discography. They're just I don't know. They're just here and there, kind of. And this list is probably going to be extremely controversial. Now, people are going to fucking hate me for doing this video because there's some picks on here that are going to piss people off, and it's a shame because guess what? It's my opinion. So whatever you may feel about it, let me hear your list in the comments, and I will respect your opinion on it. This um, this list was really, really hard to make. A lot of it was just a toss-up. They can they can switch anytime because they're so good. But I had to make a definitive list for this video, and I'll do some explaining on each album as farther I go along. I got my phone here to help me out in case I need some recollections. But yeah, and I also, just another disclaimer, I'm not going to include Coda on this list. Coda is not really an album. It's just a bunch of leftovers, so I'm just not going to include that in this list. But yeah, we're just going to roll right into it. Um, Again, Led Zeppelin, one of my favorite bands of all time. It was really hard to make this, so again, let me hear what you guys think about this. So here we go. At my number 8, I have In Through the Outdoor. Um, Again, not a terrible album. It is very listenable. Led Zeppelin fans enjoy this album. I enjoy this album. But for me, it just doesn't really vibe with me compared to the rest of their discography. There is there's a lot of cool tracks on here. Very melodic, very I don't know. I guess you could say more thought provoking. I guess you could say. Very interesting musical arrangements. You got kind of a variety. Um, like "Fool in the Rain" is probably one of their biggest hits in the day, um, and it's a great song in my opinion too. Um, "Hot Dog" is kind of a I don't know, kind of like an old school rocky bluesy kind of vibe going, which is cool. But I mean, for me, the rest of the album kind of feels weak compared to their more legendary albums, which is kind of unfortunate because this album is kind of swept under the rug when it comes to Led Zeppelin. But it is still a good album. I would highly recommend checking it out if you, again, are a big fan of Led Zeppelin. It is definitely um, not listenable, I guess you can say. It is very listenable in my opinion. So please um, check this one out if you're curious. Um, but yeah, we're gonna move on from that. In for the Outdoor at number 8. Number 7, I included Presence. Now, Presence has gained a lot more respect for me. A lot of people would put this probably before In Through the Outdoor, but Presence to me is a little bit stronger. and it's still probably hailed as probably one of Led Zeppelin's classics. A lot of people really praise this album. I mean, it's got Achilles' Last Stand on it, um, which, if any album has Achilles' Last Stand on it, is probably really darn good. Um, it just, yeah, I mean, for that I gain a lot of respect for it. Then you got like Royal Orleans, and then Nobody's Fault But Mine. It's just there's a lot of really cool deep cuts on this album that are worth checking out. But again, kind of like In Through the Outdoor, compared to the rest of the discography, it is kind of weak in my opinion. But let me tell you, Achilles' Last Stand is a freaking banger of a track, and my favorite track on that is For Your Life. It's pretty good. I thought that was a pretty cool song. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say about it. Again, it is worth a listen if you are a fan of Led Zeppelin. And yeah, just let me know where you guys put this, because this one um, is an interesting one, to say the least. But yeah, Presence at number 7. Now, this is where we get to the list where it begins to be a little controversial. Because all of these albums from here on out are just phenomenal. I would rank them as probably just top tier albums. You just can't go wrong with it. But at number 6, I'm going to have to freaking go with Led Zeppelin 3. Now, holy moly, people are going to come at me for this, but let me explain. Okay, Led Zeppelin 3, classic album. We love to hear this album. Led Zeppelin 3, phenomenal album. It's kind of hard to explain, but don't get me wrong, this album is freaking amazing. Like, come on, dude. Again, it's a toss up. You can switch any of these albums in the list from here on out. But yeah, I mean, the album kicks off with "Immigrant Song," like one of the most kick-ass songs you can ever hear, ever. Um, but I mean, it's a fantastic song. And then it's got like, these beautiful acoustic tracks with like Tangerine and Gallows Pole, and all those cool songs. Tangerine is a freaking vibe. I love that song. Um, Maybe it's because this album is more acoustic and more, I guess, not hard hitting, is making me kind of put it near the bottom of the list, I guess. But it is not a weak album by any means. It is a classic in their discography, and is definitely worth listening to. Um, Again, and then it's got songs like Celebration Day, Friends. Like, come on, you can't go wrong with any of that. It's a great album. Great album. But yeah, it's going to be number 6 for me, unfortunately. So, love it or hate it. Moving on. Number 5, I actually put their debut album. Now, I actually have this album on vinyl. Actually, hold on. Let me go pull that out real quick. Sorry, I had to whip it out so I can show you guys. But yeah, here it is. I own this album. Band on the back. It's a great album. Love this album. One of the first I ever heard. Um, it's just got banging good songs. I mean, Good Times, Bad Times. Phenomenal song. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. Probably some of the best Led Zeppelin songs ever made. Um, Dazed and Confused. Black Mountainside. Can't Quit You Baby. How Many More Times? I mean, I can go on and on. This album is solid. Um, but for me, it is kind of on the lower end. Um, Mainly because I feel like this is a band just finding its way, as most debut albums really go. But it is just a timeless classic. Um, a lot of people would probably rank this higher and higher because they're just colossal tracks on this one. Really hard, again, really hard to rank this band's discography. So let me know what you guys think. Next, we actually have Houses of the Holy. Um, this is for a number 4 spot. This album is really darn good. Now, at first, when I listened to this album, I wasn't really that great about it. I probably put this a lot lower. I'd probably rank 3, and the debut probably higher than this one. Very stylistic change from the band at this point. You got a lot more wide variety of influences like reggae, some pop, um, some psychedelia thrown in with these long, drawn-out songs and instrumentals. It's really really interesting, um, to listen to, in my opinion. Uh, it's just got, again, but over the years, it's kind of grown on me. It's very, it actually turned out to be a classic Zeppelin album, and a lot of people really adore this album and probably put this as their favorite album by them. But I like to disagree on that as we move later down the list. But again, there's no weak songs on here. No Quarter is probably one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs ever. Um, it's got the crunch, Ocean, the Rain song. Like, come on, the song remains the same. Yeah, Over the Hills and Far Away is just great. Um, Dancing Days, like it's just great, great stuff on this one. Not a weak one on this one for sure. Um, but yeah, again, it was really hard to place this album. But it's definitely, again, it's gained a lot of respect. And it's a little bit higher than most of them. Um, I like it more than the debut. I like it more than Led Zeppelin 3. That's going to piss some people off. But hey, it is what it is, folks. I want to just put it there. So, House of the Holy, number 4. Now, we're in the top 3 now. Now, again, this was really difficult, but at number 3, I put Physical Graffiti. Now, oh my gosh, why isn't this at number 1? Well, let me tell you, I personally, I just like the other two better. I don't know why, but Physical Graffiti, but geez, this album is freaking amazing. Now, I feel like this album is truly where Led Zeppelin really came into their own. It was just, because these guys, they've already at this point in their career, they've attained legend status already. They've done all sorts of stuff. They sold millions of records. And at this point, they dropped another classic, but it was just this vibe that it was just four guys just making music just for fun. And that is what makes this album shine, in my opinion. There's so many cool songs on this one. And a lot of people would rank this as their number 1 because it's just classic stuff here, folks. I'm telling you. Some of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs on here, like The Rover and Trampled Underfoot, Wonton song. Freaking incredible. John Bonham just going crazy on the drums on this one, too. The grooves and chops are just unmatched. And then you got more in the deeper cuts, like Down by the Seaside, with its more poppy kind of sound. And then In the Light with its like crazy harmonics and like kind of bagpipey kind of sound. Like it's cool. It's just a cool listen. There's a lot of cool songs. Boogie with Stu, Black Country Woman, like and freaking Kashmir. Like who can forget Kashmir? One of the most recognizable songs in their or in their list of all-time great songs. Um, freaking like Houses of the Holy, The Rover. Like there's just so many. This album is great, a classic, but it's not number 1 for me, unfortunately. So moving on from that. At number 2, my number 2 spot, I decided to include Led Zeppelin 4. Um, Now, I know people are going to attack me. Oh, Led Zeppelin 4 higher than 3 Houses of the Holy, Physical Graffiti. Like, what are you doing, Ashton? Like, what are you doing? Um, this album is just, in my opinion, a classic. Again, I have this album on vinyl too. If you can see it right there. Um, classic album. It's got, I mean, forget Stairway to Heaven. Like, no one needs to hear that song anymore. But, I mean, it's got Black Dog, Rock and Roll, Four Sticks, freaking, oh my gosh, When the Levee Breaks. Like, come on, dude. It's just, they're so good. You can tell that I'm in love with this band. I'm sucking this band's dick right now. Um, but yeah, it's just an incredible album. Um, very, very strong in my opinion. I don't know why this one ranks higher than the rest of them. Maybe it's just closer to home, I guess. More accessible, I guess you can say. But there's just a good mixture of just hard, heavy rock and roll stuff with mixed with like some more acoustic folk songs like, Going to California or like Misty Mountain Hop. Um, and even Stairway to Heaven, which I never need to hear again. Although it is a killer song. Stairway to Heaven is a great song. I'm not saying it's a bad song. I just it's overplayed, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Um, but yeah, this album is just incredible. I mean, for number two, it deserves its spot at number two in my opinion. Um, but yeah, I almost forgot Battle of Evermore, like another crazy killer song. Love it. Love this album. Do check this one out. But yeah, now my number one spot, which is coming up. Um, for those that have been keeping track of what albums I haven't covered, you're gonna know what number one is for me, and that is going to be Led Zeppelin 2. Led Zeppelin 2, in my opinion, is the best Led Zeppelin album. It's my favorite Led Zeppelin album. Um, just incredible, incredible stuff. Like always, like I've been saying for most of these albums, just great, 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 great stuff. Um, I even have it on vinyl here. It's probably one of the first albums that I've purchased on vinyl. Um, First Led Zeppelin albums that I've purchased um, for myself, anyways. This was the album that got me into Led Zeppelin when I was like around 8 or 9. Um, it just it really hits close to home to me when I have there's a select few albums now that I like to describe as my MP3 albums because there were albums on my MP3 player when I was like 8 or 9 that I would just listen to constantly, and Led Zeppelin 2 was one of them. And yeah, it's just a great, great, great album. Um, it opens with a whole lot of love. Everyone knows that song. It's a killer, killer's track. Um, Freaking Ramble On, another great, great song. The Lemon Song, Thank You, Heartbreaker, What Is and What Should Never Be. Like, come on, dude. It's incredible, incredible stuff. Living, Loving, Made. I love that song. Moby Dick. I mean, it's cool for what it is. I mean, but hey, it's a killer, killer song. I mean, John Bonham's a freaking beast. And then my favorite song on this album, Bring It On Home. Phenomenal track. Bring It On Home, absolutely amazing. Probably my favorite Led Zeppelin song. A great closer to this album for what it is. It's just phenomenal. Top tier album. Um, Anyone that wants to get into Led Zeppelin, start with Led Zeppelin 2, I would say, because that's where I started. But yeah, that's it. Um, Again, this was really hard for Led Zeppelin being one of my favorite bands of all time. It's but it's been fun though. uh, it's um, it's really crazy to think how like a band could put out so much great material with such style and with such great musicianship. Like it's just insane. Robert Plant, John Paul Jones, Jimmy Page, John Bonham, the whole lot. They're just they're incredible. Um, but yeah, and that's why they're one of my favorite bands of all time. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. This is my ranking. If you want to see it again, so number one, we got Led Zeppelin 2, 2, Led Zeppelin 4, 3, Physical Graffiti, 4, Houses of the Holy, 5 at the debut, 6 on Led Zeppelin 3, 7, Presence, and at last place, In Through the Outdoor. Now again, all these albums are great. Say what you want about my list. I want to hear yours too. But yeah. Peace out, homies. Thank you for tuning in.